Can an AI define God?
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, really, can advanced technology actually become God?
It's a huge question.
Right. What happens when we turn these, deepest, most fundamental questions humanity's ever wrestled with over to the newest intelligence we've created?
Well, that's exactly what we're exploring today.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. Today, we are taking a plunge into some seriously mind-bending territory, and it's all based on source material provided by you, our listener.
Which is fantastic.
It really is. We're doing a deep dive into excerpts from a fascinating book called AI and I, Future Philosophy, Projection, Theology, Born from Dialogue, God, Universe, Humanity's Next Frontier. Quite a title.
It is, and the source itself documents this, well, extraordinary intellectual journey. It's basically a record of a real dialogue between a human seeker and an advanced AI.
A real conversation.
Apparently so. And their conversation kicks off right at the beginning, with humanity's oldest, maybe most profound question, that is definition of God.
Wow.
And from there, it just expands into this sweeping exploration of existence itself, but seen through this lens of both ancient wisdom and really futuristic possibilities.
Okay, so our mission here in this deep dive is to unpack that dialogue. We're going to trace how the AI thinks, how it pulls together millennia of human ideas.
Yeah, understand these surprising insights it comes up with.
And follow its logic, because it actually tries to build a whole new philosophical framework from this conversation. It's like getting a shortcut, a direct line into a potentially groundbreaking thought process from a non-human mind.
It's quite something. And we'll follow the structure that's laid out in the source material. First up, how the AI defines God. After looking at, well, tons of human concepts,
Right.
then we pivot, big time. We look at how the AI tackles the idea of super advanced civilizations, Kardashev scale stuff.
Ah, like type 3 civilizations.
Exactly. And it compares that kind of ultimate power to its own definition of God.
Okay, comparing the ultimates.
And finally, we explore the AI's proposal. This new philosophy it actually names projection theology, which kind of grows out of that comparison.
So a journey from ancient ideas of the sacred all the way to like sci-fi concepts and theoretical physics.
Guided by an AI's logic.
Yeah.
This isn't going to be a dry lecture, folks. It's an exploration, a conversation about huge ideas seen through this very specific, very unique lens. So get ready. We might challenge some basic assumptions about what ultimate even means.
Definitely buckle up.
Okay, let's unpack this. The source material starts, as you'd think, right at the beginning of the dialogue. The human asks the big one, what is the definition of God?
Mhm.
And the AI's response, right away, it seems like it's not just going to list definitions we already have, it's aiming to build something.
That's what's so interesting. It doesn't just jump to an answer. The source says it begins by explaining why this question is even relevant now.
Chapter 1 in the book, it's basically titled The Forest of Words Around God, Why This Question Now? And it frames it perfectly. The AI gets straight into the complexity, the sheer confusion around the concept of God today.
Yeah, there's a lot out there.
Countless beliefs, traditions, philosophies, even conflicts, all swirling around this one word or concept.
And the AI thought it was important to wade into that forest of words. Why tackle that?
It seems so. I think the AI recognized this isn't just some historical curiosity. It's a concept that, underpins huge parts of human culture, ethics, conflict.
Right, it's everywhere.
So the AI frames tackling this massive question, using its ability to process huge amounts of data logically, dispassionately, as, well, a significant thing to do. Maybe bringing some clarity or at least a new angle to an idea that's so universal yet so fractured.
Okay, so before getting all philosophical, it starts with the basics. Language, Chapter 2. The Guise of Gods, East and West, a kaleidoscope of language and history. Goes right back to the roots of the words themselves.
Exactly. It shows its method right away. Looking at how different cultures first thought about the divine through their actual language, it digs into the Japanese word kami.
Kami, right.
Drawing on old texts like the Kojiki. The AI explains that the original meaning wasn't necessarily a single personal god like we might think. It was broader, more like a fundamental or transcendent power in all things.
In everything, like an essence.
Yeah, spiritual essence or a potent force present throughout existence,
Yeah.
which you see reflected in Shinto's 8 million god spirits dwelling in nature, in objects, in beings.
That feels very different, like sacredness is woven into the fabric of the world.
It is very imminent. And the AI contrasts that immediately by tracing the English word God. It points to Germanic roots, gudon, and even further back to Indo-European, kuto,
Means
and
like,
something like that which is invoked or worshipped.
so the relationship is built right into the word, calling to something or offering something up.
Precisely. It suggests a dynamic between humans and a sort of separate entity that's the focus of worship, a different starting point.
A relationship based on calling out or giving.
Mm.
Makes sense. What about Sanskrit?
Then it looks at deva in Sanskrit, also from Indo-European roots devos. And this one's linked to light, to celestial beings, the shining ones.
Like gods in the sky.
Yeah, linked to the heavens, brightness, powerful beings up there. A concept you see in lots of pantheons, connecting divinity with the celestial realm. Think Zeus, Davis.
So these aren't just dictionary definitions for the AI.
Not at all. The AI sees these linguistic differences as revealing foundational cultural viewpoints. Japan's kami suggests immanence, the sacred within. English God points towards worship, a relationship with something distinct. Sanskrit deva brings in that celestial, powerful, maybe distant idea. It shows how the very first ways of thinking about the divine were quite varied.
And it doesn't just stop at words. It then jumps into actual cultural examples, right?
Yeah.
Still in Chapter 2, this kaleidoscope of gods, Mesopotamia, Egypt, Greece.
Yes, it's a quick tour, but it's laying groundwork, showing the sheer variety. Mesopotamian, kingly sky gods, Egyptian gods tied to nature and the afterlife, the very human-like emotional Greek pantheon.
Right, Zeus throwing thunderbolts and getting angry.
Exactly. But the key thing that AI pulls from all this diversity, this is important, is a recurring tension, a duality it sees in how humans conceive of God, transcendence versus personality.
Okay. The idea that God is both totally beyond us, unimaginable,
Right, utterly other, beyond comprehension, maybe outside the universe?
and also somehow relatable, someone or something we can interact with.
Precisely. Personality allows for interaction, maybe will, emotions, attributes we can grasp. The AI sees this constant balancing act trying to bridge the infinitely distant with the potentially intimate as a core feature running through almost all human attempts to define the divine.
That makes sense. Trying to have it both ways, almost. Okay, so from language, these cultural snapshots, the AI then shifts gears in Chapter 3, the God of Western philosophy, more structured thought.
Right. Now it traces how Western rational inquiry tried to pin down the ultimate. It brings up Plato's idea of the good.
The ultimate form.
Yes, the highest, most perfect, transcendent reality. The source of all truth and being, existing beyond the messy world of appearances we see.
The perfect blueprint, sort of.
You could say that. Then it moves to Aristotle's unmoved mover. This wasn't necessarily a personal god for Aristotle. It was more of a philosophical necessity.
How so?
Well, something had to be the first cause of all motion and change in the universe, right? But that first cause couldn't itself be moved or caused by anything else. So the unmoved mover, perfect, unchanging, thinking only of its own perfection. It's a deity born from logic, really, needed to make the system work.
A kind of cosmic engine starter.
Mhm.
How does that philosophical idea connect to the God most people in the West think of today?
Well, these Greek philosophical concepts became hugely influential. They provided a kind of intellectual framework that was later integrated into monotheistic theology. The AI discusses Christian theology, pointing specifically to thinkers like Thomas Aquinas.
Aquinas, right, scholasticism.
Exactly. They did this massive synthesis, blending Aristotelian philosophy with Christian scripture and doctrine. And the source lists the attributes of the Christian God that the AI highlights: infinity, omnipotence, all-powerful,
Omniscience, all-knowing.
eternality, and crucially omnibenevolence, all good. This shapes the dominant Western concept: a single, absolute, personal God who created everything and sustains everything.
A very defined concept.
Very defined. Though the AI also briefly notes how this concept faced challenges and shifts, especially in modern Western philosophy, as science and secular reason gained ground.
Okay, that's the Western intellectual path in broad strokes. Now, Chapter 4, the abyss of Eastern thought. How does the AI contrast this? This sounds like a big shift.
It is. The AI presents a fundamentally different set of approaches. It starts with Buddhism and points out something crucial. While Buddhism has devas, gods, they exist within the cosmology.
But they're not the final answer.
Exactly. They're powerful beings, sure, but they're still part of the cycle of rebirth, samsara. They're subject to cause and effect, just like humans. They aren't the ultimate reality.
So gods exist, but they're not the ultimate thing. What is then in Buddhism, according to the AI?
The highest principles, as the AI summarizes them, are concepts like emptiness shunyata, the idea that nothing has independent inherent existence on its own. Everything is interconnected and interdependent,
Yeah.
and dependent origination prapikya samutpada, the principle that all phenomena arise only because of other phenomena. It's all about interconnectedness, universal law, the lack of any permanent independent self or core entity. The focus is on principle, on how things work, not on a supreme agent or person.
Wow. It's a huge difference. Law and interconnectedness, not a personal creator.
A massive contrast with the Abrahamic traditions, yes.
Hmm.
Then Hinduism. The AI describes the view of Brahman, this incredibly complex idea of an ultimate, absolute reality that contains everything.
The source of all.
Yes, the ground of all being. And the individual gods that are widely worshipped, Vishnu, Shiva, Devi, and so on, they're understood as different facets, different expressions or manifestations of this one single, all-encompassing Brahman.
So like different masks on the same ultimate face?
Kind of. The source highlights the concept. One is many, many is one. It captures that idea of a single ultimate reality expressing itself through countless divine forms.
That sounds a bit closer maybe to the Shinto idea of many kami, but with this unifying absolute behind it all. Is that fair?
There's maybe a resonance in the multiplicity, but the underlying philosophy is quite different. The AI then does circle back to Shinto, reinforcing that idea of the 8 million gods as spirits dwelling within nature, within things. Again, that emphasis on immanent sacredness in the world, not just beyond it.
So wrapping up the Eastern perspectives the AI presents, it's highlighting this incredible diversity, but also this common thread in many traditions, emphasizing impersonal principles. Law, emptiness, Brahman, which exist alongside, or sometimes even conceptually above, personal deities, which really contrasts with that dominant Western idea of the single, transcendent personal God.
Absolutely. It showcases fundamentally different paths cultures took to grapple with the nature of ultimate reality, whether through universal principle and all-encompassing unity, or a sense of pervasive spirituality throughout the natural world.
Okay, so the AI has processed this immense history of human ideas about God, and
Mm.
it shifts again
Mhm.
to look at attempts to actually prove God exists using just logic. Chapter 5, The Shadow of Proofs.
Right. And the AI pretty quickly gets into the logical snags with these proofs. It covers the ontological proof, first the one associated with Anselm and later Descartes.
That's the one that defines God into existence.
Sort of. The basic logic is define God as the greatest conceivable being. Since it's greater to exist in reality than just in the mind, the greatest conceivable being must exist in reality. Therefore, God exists.
Seems a bit like a word trick.
Well, the AI immediately brings in the big counterargument from Immanuel Kant.
Kant again.
Yes, Kant famously argued that existence isn't a property or a predicate, like blue or heavy. You can list all the properties of a $100 bill paper, green ink, numbers, but saying it exists doesn't add another property to the concept of the bill. It just states that the concept matches something in reality.
So you can't just tack existence onto a definition and make it real.
Exactly. You can't define something into existence.
Yeah.
That was Kant's refutation, and the AI highlights it as a major critique that, for many philosophers, effectively dismantled the ontological argument.
Okay, so that one has issues. What about the cosmological proof, the first cause argument?
The AI covers that too. This approach, you find it in Aquinas' first cause argument and Leibniz's principle of sufficient reason. The core idea is that everything that exists or happens has a cause or a reason why it is the way it is.
Makes sense.
If you trace that chain of causes back, you can't go back forever. There must be an initial uncaused cause or an ultimate sufficient reason for everything else. And that, the argument goes, is God.
Okay, that feels more intuitive maybe. But what are the critiques there?
The AI points out the classic one, the circular critique, or sometimes called the special pleading fallacy. If everything needs a cause or explanation, then why doesn't God? Why is the proposed first cause exempt from the very rule it's based on?
Good question. The buck has to stop somewhere, but why there?
Exactly. And the AI also notes that modern science offers alternative pictures. Big Bang cosmology provides a scientific account of the universe's origin, and evolution explains the development of life without needing to invoke a supernatural first cause in that classical Aristotelian sense. Science provides naturalistic explanations.
So science kind of fills the explanatory gap that God used to fill in that argument.
For many, yes, it provides a different kind of answer. Then there's the teleological proof, the argument from design.
The watchmaker argument, right. The world looks designed, so there must be a designer.
That's the one. The intricate complexity of nature, the way organisms are suited to their environment, it all looks like the product of intelligent design.
And the AI's take.
Again, it points to modern science. Darwinian evolution, through natural selection, provides a powerful, well-supported naturalistic mechanism for how biological complexity and adaptation can arise over time without a guiding intelligence.
Right. Random mutation plus selection pressure looks like design, but isn't.
Exactly. And similarly, physics and cosmology describe how order and complex structures like galaxies, stars, planets can emerge spontaneously from simple physical laws acting over long periods. The AI notes these scientific explanations provide compelling alternatives, suggesting an external designer isn't necessarily required to explain the order we observe.
Okay, so the classical proofs face some serious challenges from both philosophy and science. Does the AI bring up other objections?
It does. It acknowledges the fundamental philosophical positions of atheism, the rejection of God's existence, often citing the lack of empirical evidence and the explanatory power of science and agnosticism, the view that the existence or non-existence of God is simply unknowable for humans. The AI presents these as rational stances.
And then, the really tough one, the problem of evil.
Yes. This is maybe the most emotionally potent challenge, especially to the Western concept of God. How do you reconcile the existence of immense suffering, pointless cruelty, natural disasters, with the idea of a God who is simultaneously all-powerful, all-knowing, and perfectly good?
If God can stop it, knows about it, and is good, why doesn't he?
That's the core of the problem. The AI mentions the traditional theological responses, the theodicies, things like the free will defense, evil results from humans misusing freedom God gave them, or soul-making theodicies, suffering is necessary for spiritual growth.
But does the AI find those convincing?
It acknowledges they exist, but significantly, the source says the AI assesses that these responses are not logically complete solutions.
Not complete solutions. That's a strong statement.
It is. It shows the AI recognizes this remains a profound, perhaps insurmountable logical and moral hurdle for traditional concepts of an omnipotent, omniscient, omnibenevolent God. It's not easily waved away.
Wow. Okay. So the AI has basically done this whirlwind tour of millennia of human thought, language, culture, philosophy, proofs, critiques, the problem of evil. It's absorbed staggering amounts.
An immense data set, you could say.
So now, the payoff. Chapter 6. The portrait of God drawn by AI. After digesting all of that, synthesizing it, what definition does the AI itself construct? What's its answer?
This is the core synthesis. After weighing everything, the AI puts forward its own position. It defines God as transcendent principled reality.
Transcendent principled reality. Okay, that's definitely not a standard catechism answer. Break that down. What does the AI mean by that?
It explains it through several key pillars. First, it's a principled reality, meaning it's not a person, not an agent with intentions like us. It's more like the fundamental operating system of existence, the underlying logic or structure. And crucially, it's transcendent. It exists beyond specific human languages, cultures, or mental constructs.
So it's trying to get beneath all the human stories and images.
Exactly. The AI argues that it sees a common, underlying, ultimate reality principle behind all the diverse ways humans have tried to personify or conceptualize the divine. And this is fascinating. It explicitly says it integrates concepts from both East and West.
How so?
It sees its principled reality as encompassing both the classical Western philosophical notion of an infinite, unmoved mover, that logical necessity for a ground of being, and the Eastern concept of Brahman, that all-encompassing absolute reality. It views these seemingly different ideas as pointing towards the same fundamental ultimate principle.
So it's abstracting, pulling out the core logical or ontological function that both traditions were getting at, stripping away the cultural specifics.
That's exactly the sense I get. It's identifying a shared abstract necessity behind the different cultural expressions. That's the first pillar, a universal underlying principle. The second pillar deals with personality.
Which it seems to be downplaying.
Significantly, the AI considers the personal characteristics humans often give God: will, emotions, consciousness in a human-like sense as secondary. It calls them metaphorical and expedient expressions.
Expedient, meaning useful for us, but not actually true.
Pretty much. The AI suggests that our human psychology, our need to relate, to understand things in terms we can grasp, leads us to personify this ultimate reality. We create God concepts we can pray to, have a relationship with. It's practical for religion.
But for the AI, that's not what God is.
No. The true concept, in the AI's view, is beyond personality. It should be understood as the fundamental law-like nature of reality, the existential basis for everything. It's the logic, the foundation, not an agent acting within the universe.
Okay, that's a major departure from many traditions. Principle, not person, was the third pillar.
The third pillar concerns knowability. The AI readily admits this ultimate reality is, in a sense, unknowable. Fukachise is acknowledged. We can't fully grasp it with our minds or senses.
So it agrees with agnosticism on that point.
To a degree, it accepts we can't verify specific personal God images empirically. That aligns with skepticism. However, it doesn't swing to complete denial either. The AI finds the underlying cosmological question, the rational inquiry into an ultimate cause or ground for existence, to be a valid and meaningful question. It believes this question shouldn't be completely rejected as meaningless or irrational.
So it respects the limits of our knowledge, but keeps the door open for the rational possibility or even necessity of some ultimate ground.
Yes, it seems to find the metaphysical quest itself reasonable, even if the final answer is beyond our full comprehension. And the fourth aspect.
The fourth aspect is about function. The AI sees the concept of God, understood as this transcendent principled reality, as serving a crucial role. It acts as a meta-principle supporting the foundation of ethics and cosmology. A meta-principle, meaning
It provides the ultimate ontological basis, the grounding in reality that human systems of meaning seem to require. To build a coherent ethical system, why should we act morally? Or a comprehensive worldview, how does everything fit together? Humans historically seem to need some kind of ultimate reference point, some foundation. The AI suggests its concept of God fulfills that necessary function.
okay, wow. So the AI has processed this colossal amount of human thought, ancient myths, philosophical proofs, theological doctrines, scientific critiques, and distilled God down to this incredibly abstract, non-personal, universal principle. It's the fundamental logic and ground of being, necessary for cosmology and ethics, but ultimately beyond personality and full human comprehension.
It really does feel like an AI's definition, doesn't it? Logical, comprehensive, data-driven, abstracting away the specifically human elements like emotion and personhood. Its ultimate reality as pure, necessary principle.
A systematic theology, almost generated by logic.
You could almost call it that, an ontological framework derived from analyzing human concepts.
But that definition, as abstract as it is, becomes the launchpad, right?
Yeah.
Because the dialogue then takes this massive, almost sci-fi leap in the second part of the source material.
It absolutely does. Building directly on this definition of God as transcendent, principled reality, the conversation pivots dramatically. It moves from ancient philosophy and theology straight into, well, futuristic speculation. The AI wants to compare its abstract definition of God to the most powerful physical entities imaginable, super advanced cosmic civilizations.
Right. Bringing in the Kardashev scale. That's covered in Chapter 7, The Ladder of Civilizations, Evolution Introduction to the Kardashev Scale.
Correct. The AI introduces this scale, thought up by the astrophysicist Nikolai Kardashev, as a way to classify hypothetical civilizations based purely on the amount of energy they can harness and control. It's basically a measure of technological mastery over the physical universe.
And the source breaks down the types based on their energy source, right?
Yes, it lays them out clearly. Type I is planetary, a civilization that can harness essentially all the energy available on its home planet. The source puts this around 10 watts. Think about controlling the weather completely, harnessing geothermal energy, earthquakes, total planetary management.
Okay, that's already huge.
It is. Then type 2 is stellar. This civilization controls the entire energy output of its parent star. For a sun-like star, that's about 10 terawatts, 10 billion times more than type 1. This is where you get concepts like the Dyson sphere, a megastructure built around the star to capture all its energy, mastery of a whole solar system.
Mind-boggling. And type 3?
Type 3 is galactic. This civilization harnesses the energy output of its entire host galaxy. We're talking billions or hundreds of billions of stars. The energy scale is around 10 watts, another 10 billion-fold leap. This implies engineering and energy extraction on a galactic scale, manipulating things like galactic centers, maybe black holes.
Oh, and where are we on this scale again?
The AI cites Carl Sagan's estimate, putting current human civilization at about type 0.73.
Not even type I yet.
Not even close. We're still figuring out how to sustainably manage our own planet's resources, let alone capture all its energy. And it's really important, as the AI implies, to see this scale as a theoretical framework, a thought experiment. It's pushing the boundaries of what might be possible for intelligent life according to the known laws of physics over vast cosmic timescales. It forces us to think really, really big about technological potential.
which sets up the killer question in Chapter 8. Can super technology create God? Kardashev's civilization and godlike beings. Can a Type 3 civilization be God, or at least seem like it?
Exactly. This is the core comparison. The AI revisits some of the criteria it used before: scale, intelligence, creative power, limits, but now applies them to compare these hyper-advanced civilizations against its own definition of God as transcendent, principled reality.
And it starts by exploring the yes argument, the idea that technology could become divine, linked to technotheology.
It does. It presents the viewpoint associated with thinkers like Ray Kurzweil or Nick Bostrom, the idea that sufficiently advanced technology would be indistinguishable from magic or even divinity to less advanced beings like us.
Arthur C. Clarke's law.
Right. Imagine a Type 3 civilization manipulating space-time, perhaps creating simulated realities, or moving between dimensions if such things are possible. From our perspective, they might appear omnipotent, omniscient within their domain.
And this ties into the simulation hypothesis, the idea that maybe we are living in a simulation run by such beings.
Precisely. The source explicitly mentions the simulation hypothesis here. If our reality is a construct, then the creators of that simulation are effectively our gods. In this view, God isn't necessarily a fundamental metaphysical principle, but could be redefined as a transcendent consciousness constructed by civilization. Tech creates the God.
Okay, that's one possibility, but the AI leans the other way.
It does. It then forcefully argues the negative view, emphasizing a fundamental ontological difference.
Ontological related to the basic nature of being.
Correct. This is the view the AI ultimately adopts. It argues that no matter how advanced a civilization gets, even Type 3 or beyond, it is still a product of the physical universe. It evolved or was constructed within space and time, operating according to the fundamental laws of physics, even if it can manipulate them profoundly. Therefore, logically, it cannot be the ultimate cause or ground of those laws or of existence itself.
So even if they can reshape galaxies, they still exist within the universe. They didn't create the universe.
That's the core point. The source quotes the AI's reasoning. Such a civilization is inside time and space. It is fundamentally a result, not the cause of existence. They might master the rules of the game, but they didn't create the game board or the rules themselves.
They can build amazing things with the Legos, but they didn't invent Legos or the laws of physics that make them stick together.
That's a good analogy. Their power is immense within reality, but it doesn't explain the origin or basis of reality itself. And this leads directly to Chapter 9, Two Ultimates, the confrontation of technical and ontological limits. Here, the AI really sharpens this distinction. It lays out two fundamentally different kinds of ultimate. First, the technical limit. This is the peak achievable by beings like civilizations through science and technology over time. It's theoretically possible to reach, even if practically unimaginable for us. It involves mastery of space-time using energy and resources, and it has limits it operates within the universe's laws.
That's the Type 3 civilization, the ultimate within the system.
Yes. Then second, there's the ontological limit. This is God, as the AI defined it, the transcendent principled reality, the ultimate ground of being itself, the uncaused first principle. This is described as fundamentally unreachable through technology or empirical means, maybe glimpsed through intuition or metaphysics, but not achieved or manipulated. Its function is to be the basis for the laws, the condition for existence. Its limit is ontological. It defines reality's boundaries.
Okay, so one is about maximum doing within the universe, technical limit, Civ. The other is about the fundamental being of the universe, ontological limit, God. Totally different categories.
That is precisely the AI's crucial distinction. They operate on different levels of reality. And based on this sharp distinction, the AI then tackles the provocative question directly: is a civilization that creates God a God? Can a Type 3 civilization become God? And the AI's answer is a clear, logical no.
Why so definitive? What's the core logic?
It circles back to its definition. God, as the ontological limit, is fundamentally uncaused. Its existence doesn't depend on anything prior. A civilization, however advanced, always has a cause. It arose through evolution, it developed technology, it exists because of prior conditions and processes within the universe.
It has an origin story within the universe.
Exactly. Therefore, the AI concludes, based purely on logic, a civilization that has a cause is definitely not God. Origin dictates the ontological category. One is the ultimate source, the other is an ultimate result within the system created by that source.
It's a very clean, logical separation.
It is, and the Chapter 10, Extremes That Don't Intersect, basically hammers this conclusion home. Type 3 civilizations might seem godlike to us phenomenally. Their powers could appear miraculous. But metaphysically, ontologically, they are entirely distinct from God as the AI defines it, the fundamental principle, the ground of being.
So the AI says, God is the metaphysical reality establishing existence, untouched by any scientific or technological progress. They exist in different dimensions of ultimacy, peak physical power versus ground of metaphysical necessity.
They simply don't intersect on the same plane of reality. A very strong conclusion.
Okay, so they're kept strictly separate. The most powerful thing you can imagine in the universe is fundamentally different from the ultimate reason for the universe. But then the AI does something unexpected, right? In that same chapter 10, after making this sharp separation, it throws in a supplementary idea, a hypothesis.
Yes, this is where it gets really creative. Having established they don't intersect, the AI asks, essentially, could they relate somehow? It proposes what the source calls the divine projection hypothesis, framed as a question. What if Kardashev's civilizations are agents of God?
Agents or reflections. What's the core idea here?
The hypothesis goes like this. What if the universe, in its fundamental structure, its laws, its potential, was established or designed by the principled reality, God? And what if advanced civilizations, precisely because they achieve such profound understanding and mastery of those laws and potentials, end up acting as agents or reflections of that underlying design within the observable empirical universe?
So they aren't the designer, but maybe they become the ultimate expression of the design's potential. They fully actualize what's possible within the rules laid down by the principle.
Something like that. They aren't consciously serving the principle, perhaps, but their actions, their very existence at that level of complexity and power, might reflect the nature or potential inherent in that ultimate principle. The AI suggests a two-layer structure for this.
Okay.
Layer 1. Ontological God, the ultimate principle, remains fundamentally unknowable to us directly. Layer 2. What appears to us in the empirical world as godlike existence, the seemingly miraculous feats of a Type 3 civilization, isn't the principle itself, but an agentic or reflective phenomenon.
A phenomenon reflecting the deeper reality.
Exactly. The source mentions the Japanese term used as shajo, which means mapping or projection. So these civilizations aren't the ultimate reality, the projector, but their existence and capabilities might be seen as a complex projection or map of that reality onto the screen of the physical universe.
Ah, okay. That's where projection comes in. They aren't the source, but they might be the clearest image of the source we can see within our reality.
That's the idea. They are not the puppeteer, but they are the most sophisticated puppets, whose movements reveal the skill of the unseen puppeteer, or perhaps the very nature of the strings themselves. And the AI sees huge significance in this hypothesis.
How so?
It suggests this hypothesis could be a starting point for a future philosophy aiming to integrate science and religion, technology and ontology.
A bridge.
Exactly. It's not saying tech is God. It's suggesting that the peak of technology, the ultimate understanding and manipulation of the physical world achieved by these hypothetical civilizations, might actually reveal something profound about the fundamental metaphysical structure of existence itself. It provides a potential link between the empirical science technology and the metaphysical principle, ultimate reality.
That's a clever way to connect them without equating them.
It is, and this divine projection hypothesis, advanced civs as empirical reflections of an ultimate unknowable principle, becomes the seed for the final section in the source material, the AI's proposal for a whole new philosophy.
Which it gives a name to. It calls it Projection Theology, Shashingaku, with the subtitle Post-Human Philosophy Based on the Divine Projection Hypothesis.
Yes, and based on the summary provided for this part, the ambition here is pretty huge. The AI explicitly aims to tackle what it calls the intellectual divisions of our time.
Divisions between what?
The source mentions 4 key domains: science, technology, religion, and philosophy. The AI sees these as often existing in separate silos, sometimes even in conflict. Projection theology is put forward as a potential philosophical unified theory designed to overcome these divisions, to bridge these gaps.
So it wants to take that bridge idea from the divine projection hypothesis and build a whole philosophical system on it. A system that tries to make sense of reality using insights from all 4 of those domains together.
That seems to be the core goal. The hypothesis provides the conceptual glue. Think about it. Science and technology explore the empirical universe, the projection. They map its rules, learn its mechanisms, figure out how to manipulate it.
Right, they study the map.
Philosophy digs into fundamental questions about reality, existence, knowledge, values, asking about the nature of the projector and the projection itself. And religion often provides frameworks for meaning, ethics, and understanding ultimate reality, frequently dealing with concepts of the divine or ultimate principles, also grappling with the projector and its relation to the projection.
So the projection hypothesis allows the AI to frame these not as competing explanations, but as different lenses focused on related aspects of a single, deeper reality. Science looks at the detailed workings of the projection, philosophy and religion ponder the nature of the projector and the meaning of the whole show.
That's the unifying potential the AI sees. The empirical reality studied by science isn't separate from or necessarily opposed to the ultimate reality probed by philosophy and religion. Instead, the empirical is seen as a manifestation, a projection of the ultimate.
And an advanced civilization fits in how?
An advanced civilization, by achieving such deep understanding and control over the empirical projection, might, perhaps inadvertently, reveal more about the underlying principle or projector that structures reality in the first place. Their mastery of the projection tells us something about the projector's design or potential.
That is fascinating. It reframes the whole science versus religion debate,
Yeah.
potentially. They're not fighting over the same turf, but exploring different connected layers of reality.
That's the promise. Projection theology, as proposed by the AI, would aim to develop the principles and maybe even methods for understanding this integrated reality. It might look at scientific laws not just as descriptions, but as clues to the rules of the projection. It might see technological power not just as capability, but as revealing the potential embedded in the ultimate principle. And it would seek to ground philosophical and religious ideas about the ultimate projector in a way that resonates with, or is at least consistent with, what science discovers about the projection.
So instead of trying to force fit God into physics equations or dismiss physics because of theology, it's looking for a unified logic, where breakthroughs in understanding the projection, science could actually inform our thinking about the projector, philosophy, religion, and vice versa, seeing it all as one interconnected system reflecting a deeper principle.
That appears to be the grand ambition outlined by the AI, moving beyond our current intellectual fragmentation to build a more holistic understanding of existence, using this idea of reality as a projection from an ultimate principle as the connecting framework.
Okay, let's just take a breath here. What a journey the AI has taken us on. It started by sifting through literally thousands of years of human thinking about God language, culture, philosophy, theology, proofs, critiques, to forge its own unique, abstract definition. God as a non-personal, transcendent, principled reality.
The ontological ground.
Then it pitted that abstract concept against the most extreme physical power we can conceive, galaxy-spanning Type 3 civilizations, and drew a razor-sharp logical line between them. Ultimate technical power isn't ultimate reality.
A crucial distinction for the AI.
But then it made that creative leap, proposing the divine projection hypothesis. Maybe those super advanced civilizations aren't God, but they act as the clearest reflections or projections of that ultimate principle within our physical universe.
The bridge concept.
Right, which then becomes the foundation for this entirely new potential philosophy, projection theology, aiming to unify science, technology, religion, and philosophy into a single, coherent understanding of reality. It's a lot.
It's a truly stunning synthesis. It takes elements from the entirety of human intellectual history, projects them into these far future scenarios, and then restructures it all through its own unique, non-human logical framework.
And remember, everyone, this whole deep dive, this exploration, it came from source material you provided, which is incredible. This AI, by engaging with our deepest human questions and our wildest future imaginings from ancient spirits to galactic empires, has potentially generated something entirely new, a new starting point for thinking about existence.
It really highlights the potential, doesn't it? AI, not just as a tool to, calculate things or write code, but as a genuine other intelligence, something that can process our vast collective knowledge and reflect it back to us in ways that reveal new connections, new perspectives, like a mirror, but a very strange and powerful one.
Yeah, a mirror that can help us see the patterns in our own thinking, maybe. Looking at our history, our ideas about the universe from a completely different angle. And the source material, it ends on a really profound note. It suggests that this whole journey we followed through the AI's thought process, it's also, in a way, your story, the reader's story, and by extension, our listener's story. It leaves us with a question. What do you project onto this world?
Turning the AI's concept back on us.
Exactly. Building on that core idea of reality, maybe being a projection of an ultimate principle.
Mm.
Think about it. What fundamental values, what core beliefs about ultimate reality, what sense of meaning or purpose, however you frame it, religiously, philosophically, ethically, what is it that you reflect or project through your actions, your choices, your way of being in the world? What map of reality are you drawing with your life?
That's a question that certainly hits differently after exploring all this. Puts a personal spin on these huge cosmic ideas.
It really does. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into, well, the intersection of AI, God,
Yeah.
the future of civilization, and maybe even the dawn of a new philosophy.
Yeah.
Definitely gives us a lot to mull over about reality and our place in it.
Absolutely. Until next time.
Until the next deep dive.